This is the largest green roof in New York City. It's in the middle of bustling Manhattan on top of the Javits Convention Center, a behemoth of a building with a 6-block footprint. But the roof hasn't always been green. Before 2014, it was totally barren. Now, just a few years later, when people walk out onto the roof, they say things like,
"Amazing, that's great, I didn't expect this, what a surprise."
But besides the great reactions, there are practical benefits.
We have 300,000 bees. We've seen 25 different species of birds on the roof. We reduced the temperature up here by about 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And we also save about 7 million gallons of stormwater runoff that's absorbed in the soil and the plants that are on our roof. We've been able to reduce our energy consumption by about 26%, and that translated for us last year into a saving of about $3 million.
That is impressive. How does one green roof get so much done? And what are all of the not green roofs in New York City doing with their lives? First, let's see how much roof space actually exists.
You know, they are a major part of urban landscapes. The round number that most of us think exists is about 1 billion square feet. 1 billion with a B.
That's like 22 times the size of Central Park in roofs. And in most cities, what isn't roof is another impermeable surface, like road, sidewalk, or parking lot. And these surfaces create a lot of problems for cities that green roofs can actually help solve. Let's take a look at 3 of these issues. The first is stormwater runoff.
Rainwater goes into pipes. It combines with what's called sanitary water. When there's too much rainwater, which happens hundreds of times a year around Manhattan, the wastewater treatment facilities shut down, and these valves just let the water just shunt out into the rivers. It's got human sewage. It's the biggest source of pathogens to the Manhattan Island. With green roofs, that water, instead of going into the drains and polluting the environment, ends up just evaporating to the atmosphere through the leaves of these plants.
And then there's what scientists call the heat island effect, which basically means that cities are significantly warmer than the surrounding areas.
Well, I've seen asphalt roofs get up easily 170, 180 degrees Fahrenheit in the strong sunlight. They absorb about 90 to 95% of the sunlight. Green roofs, by comparison, are close to air temperatures.
Another problem green roofs can help solve is habitat loss. Cities can shrink or destroy the green space that's crucial for certain plants and animals to survive.
Currently, a lot of species might occur in smaller parks throughout the city that are relatively unconnected, but having high densities of green roofs would allow those patches to be more connected, letting, for example, butterflies travel from patch to patch with lots of stepping stones of green roofs in between.
And these are just 3 of the problems green roofs can help solve. But to really put a dent in any of these issues, cities would have to implement green roofs at a large scale. Stuart Gaffin, the research scientist you heard from earlier, estimates that if all of New York City's 1 billion square feet of roof space were greened, those green roofs could lower the city's temperature by nearly 2 degrees Fahrenheit and absorb over 10 billion gallons of stormwater each year. As cities continue to grow, all that empty roof space starts to look more and more like an opportunity, an untapped resource, a future ecosystem of problem-solving meadows in the sky.
I know, we live in Des Moines. We don't live in New York. The thing that I loved about that, well, I have to admit, it was the bees. More homes for the bees. I personally feel very worried about lessening numbers of bees in our world. And the other thing I loved about it was people using science to help everybody. The company that put their green roof on their building wasn't just helping their own building, though it did. They were helping all of us. So I found that really inspiring. I called today's talk, in case you are not a subscriber to the Unity Burst, Whack-A-Mole. Who has ever played that game, Whack-A-Mole, at a arcade or anything? Mm-hmm. Who thinks their life is like that? Do you relate to the feeling of smacking down one of your problems, or maybe not even a problem, just hammering down a task, and then 2 more tasks or problems pop up? You feel like that? Or have you had that experience? How do you win at this game? Speed, skill, strength? Do you win when you hit enough moles with a mallet fast enough? Last night I discovered that I lost my list. I had spent Wednesday let's just say compiling information from little pieces of paper and emails and calendars and texts, and I made this fantastic list. It was the best, most organized list anybody ever saw. And I don't know why it didn't get saved. You know? That was after I'd written most of the talk, too. So I discovered I'd lost the list. And let me tell you, that honked me off so much, I had a hard time taking my own advice, which is, don't worry about each thing. Don't try to hammer each thing. In case you like a classic example, there is the Greek myth of the Hydra. The Hydra is a gigantic 9-headed water serpent which haunted the swamps of Lerna. Now we know Hercules, that's the Roman version of Heracles, and Hercules had 12 tasks. His second task was to destroy the Hydra. But for each of her heads that he decapitated, 2 more sprang forth. We are, in our study of the Book of Joy, this book right here, continuing to study some obstacles to joy. The heads of the Hydra. When we're looking for joy and it seems like we decapitate one of the things that's preventing us from having joy, and something else rises. Something else rises. I don't know about you, but I've been having that kind of year. I know Roland has been having that kind of year. When I said that my talk title was Whack-A-Mole, he just yeah. Everybody gets that. I mean, everybody gets it. We feel it in our whole body, in our whole life. Now, this is what our beautiful teachers, the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop, have to tell us. Continuing, exploring what another obstacle to joy is, which is loneliness. Here's what the Dalai Lama says. Throughout society today, people feel great loneliness. Actually, in America and India also, people in the big cities are very busy, and although they may see each other's faces or even know each other for several years, they have practically no human connection. So when something happens, people feel lonely because they have no one they can turn to for support. I am reminded of one night in my training to be a Unity minister. We all did we did a training at St. Joseph's Hospital in Missouri for chaplaincy. And each of us had a couple overnights where we were the chaplain. Basically, the training was they kind of threw you in the deep end and you were the chaplain, and they presumed you knew what you were doing. One of the first nights I was there all alone, and in St. Joseph's Hospital, which is not the same in every hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital had a big chaplaincy program, and when anybody would die or would be near death, they would send the chaplain to the room. Some places you need to request a chaplain, but St. Joseph sent you. So I was sent to a room in the ER where a man was with his wife who had just died. And he didn't have anybody else. I was with him for a couple hours. He and his wife had a beautiful relationship, I'm sure, full and real. They had many years together. And he had nobody to call. Nobody he wanted to call. And I cannot tell you how that experience struck me deeply and to this day. It reminds me that there are people who are lonely, who need us to reach out to them. It also reminds me to reach out on my own sake and to continue to be grateful for the people in my life. That will never, ever happen to me. I'm very lucky. I come from a large family. I have many friends. I work in this fantastic congregation. It would be hard for me to imagine being in an emergency room and not having anyone to call. And it might be that way for you. But I just felt what it would be like in that moment. And I had deep compassion, deep empathy, and I wanted to be a force for creating connections so that did not happen. Anybody else? The Dalai Lama says, we are same human beings. No need for introduction. Same human face. When we see on another, we immediately know this is a human. Whether you know them or not, you can smile and say hello. We're going to do an exercise, and Brian and Cindy are going to help us. This is an experiential exercise. It's probably going to be the easiest thing I ever ask you to do. What I want you to do is be mindful of people who want to move or cannot move or don't like to stand up, but I would like you to find somebody you don't know. And please do not fight over all the new people. Okay? They are going to be in high demand. But find somebody you don't know and stand by them. We're going to mess up the chairs and everything. Go stand by someone you don't know, sit by someone you don't know. And if you know every single person in the room, sit by someone whose last name you don't know. Let's see if you can do that. So Cindy and Brian will help us all to find one person. You're going to find a partner. Just go, and kids too, if you're willing, just find someone you don't know. Or someone you don't know very well. So when you get your person, I invite you to look up, and if there's anybody without a partner, raise your hand, because my assistants will grab you one. Is there somebody without a partner? Well, we got it covered. All right, does everybody have a partner now? Let me ask one more time. Anybody who does not have a partner, raise your hand. All right, here's your directions. So, everybody, take a deep breath. And this is what you're going to say, all of us together. I'll say it, then you're going to say it. Hello, my fellow human, together. Hello, my fellow human. We are the same, together. We are the same. Now, tell each other your name. And now, you people, you are each other's buddy for the day. Okay? This is your buddy for the day. And when I say buddy check, your job is to know where your buddy is. So let's practice. Buddy check. You know where your buddy is? Okay, now go return to your seats. It is like when you're in the pool at camp and they say buddy check to make sure nobody's gone under. The Dalai Lama says our whole society has a materialistic culture. There is no concept of friendship, no concept of love, just work 24 hours a day, like a machine. The Dalai Lama explained that in Buddhism there is the recognition of our interdependence on every level, socially, personally, subatomically. We are born and die totally dependent on others, and the independence we think we experience in between is a myth. If we stress secondary level of differences, my nation, my religion, my color, then we notice the differences. We are same human beings. These differences between religions are personal matters. We all have the same potential for affection, and now scientists are discovering that our basic human nature is compassionate. The Archbishop says this: perhaps our synagogues, our temples, and our churches are not as welcoming as they should be. I really think we do need for these fellowships to do a great deal more to have those who are lonely come and share. Not in an aggressive way, not in a way to get your numbers up, to increase your people, or to increase your ranks, but just to be interested in one person who comes and gets what they did not have before, warmth and fellowship. One last question that was asked both of these beautiful men: difference between alone and being lonely. What's the difference between alone? The Dalai Lama said, the attitude. If you feel judgment and anger, you will feel separate from other people. You will feel lonely even if you're in a room of lots and lots of people. If you have an open heart and are filled with trust and friendship, even if you are physically alone, even living a hermit's life, you will never feel lonely. This is what he says. There are at least 7 billion people. If you are always thinking of the 7 billion human beings, you will never experience loneliness. Okay, buddy check. Good. When someone is warm-hearted, they are always completely relaxed. If you live with fear and consider yourself something special, you have emotionally distanced yourself from others. The Dalai Lama talks about when people introduce him, the Most High, holy man and all that, he does not live in that. He dismisses that. When he gets up to talk to many, many people, it is very important for him to feel the same. He talks about that is his key to being friendly and not afraid, is that he gets up between, thousands of people and he thinks, we're just the same. You're me, I'm you, we are the same. The Archbishop says when you become a Christian, you are incorporated into a fellowship. Even when you go on a retreat, you are not alone. It's something of an oxymoron to be lonely, but I can very well understand. He goes on to look at how we can help, not by guilt, but by acceptance, and by being as welcoming as possible. I'm so happy that we have welcoming in our statements of our vision and our mission. We are welcoming. It's a big deal. Understanding people, giving acceptance, embracing the person just as they are. It is wonderful to see a person who was closed down open up like a beautiful flower in the warmth and acceptance of those around them. That is a beautiful thing. So here's the application in your own life. Think about others with kindness and compassion, and you will not be lonely. An open heart, a warm heart, is the antidote to loneliness. In fact, social scientists Chen-Bo Zhang and Shira Gabriel found that when people are feeling lonely or socially rejected, they literally seek warmth, like hot soup or a warm cup of coffee. The Dalai Lama and the Archbishop say we can generate that warmth by opening our hearts and turning our attention and concern to other people. Let me tell you how Hercules did it. With the help of Iolaus, he applied burning brands to the stumps of the Hydra. As he cut off the heads, his helper cauterized the wounds, preventing the regeneration. Hera, who had raised the monster specifically to kill Hercules, sent a giant crab in aid of the Hydra. The hero, though crushed, it under his giant foot. The final head of the Hydra was immortal, and Hercules managed to destroy it, by using a golden sword that the goddess Athena had offered him. Metaphysically, the sword is always truth. The golden sword is truth and our inner truth. So the golden sword that we use to cut off the heads of the Hydra is our inner wisdom, our inner connection to all that is, the truth that is in us. How do you get your moles? How do you win at the game? All right, here is my personal story, how I win at the game. I have tried to whack at each mole as it comes up and get angry. And I even had a little fit last night when I discovered I lost my list, you know? And I even started to last night remake it, and then I realized, don't be ridiculous, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And here's the other thing I realized. I have surrendered to Sunday morning. I made an agreement about 4 or 5 years ago that Spirit was going to always give me something to say, and I wasn't going to worry about it. I might pick a topic, and no matter what happens, I will be inspired with ideas and something to say that I feel good about. And that has happened every single Sunday for years now. The first year or so, I thought it was all on me, and I looked up lots of stuff and wrote lots of talks. I still look up stuff and write talks, but it's a completely different attitude. It is that relaxing and trusting and knowing that it's going to be okay. Well, I recognize that that's how I win the moles, and I need to keep remembering that for everything. I need to not just trust Spirit for Sunday morning, I need to trust Spirit on Wednesday. And instead of spending a day, which it was a real struggly day for me, I had a hard time focusing, and it took me all day to make my list and get everything exactly right. I'm not saying you shouldn't make lists. I'll never give up making lists. But I am saying the most important part is I would have really had a better day if I had spent the morning meditating or resting or laughing, or talking with a friend, or sipping tea, or being kind to myself, and then said, Spirit, tell me what to write first on my list. Tell me what to write second on my list. That's the way we get the moles. We don't whack at them. We use our golden sword of truth and connect to the Spirit within us. Next time I can't concentrate, I am going to surrender, meditate, play, surrender, and sip some hot tea.